Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the feature race at Saratoga on Sunday's 100 grander, and it's also at 1.75 miles. It's race number 9. It's the Birdstone Stakes. And before we get to the analysis, head on over to the DRF Saratoga handicapping shop at drf.com/spa, where you'll find PP's picks, clocker reports, betting strategies, and all the must-have tools to win big at Saratoga. Here's the field for the Birdstone. 14 furlongs, the Birdstone. The 6 Moretti, 8-5 on the morning line. Drop in class, stretches out off 1.25 race, and both of those things work to Moretti's advantage.
Yeah, they do. It does feel like, more distance is probably what this horse wants. And he does feel like he's getting some pretty significant class relief here after facing Tacitus last time.
He's also very tactical for a long-winded marathoner. As we take a look at the Timeform U.S. pace projector, Moretti can lead, Moretti can stalk. We're expecting Moretti to stalk American Tattoo in the early portion of this race. And if this trip comes into fruition, he should be right in the thick of things when they turn for home.
Yeah, and I didn't really see any point arguing with the pace projector, Dan. It does sort of feel like American Tattoo. He's sort of more of a free-running kind of horse. He probably wants the front. And I'm sure Pletcher would be just fine if Moretti was tracking him.
Standard Deviation has been plying his trade on the turf, and he's okay as a longer distance horse for Chad Brown on the grass. But a lot of people forget that he was also grade 1 placed as a 2-year-old on dirt at Keeneland, and he won his career debut at Saratoga in an off-the-turf race. Standard Deviation's adding blinkers. I think Chad wants to at least get a little bit of speed into him, because on dirt, it's hard to win from 30 lengths back no matter the distance. But he classes up well with these horses.
I mean, we'll see what happens with him. His turf form is actually pretty good. He was struggling to win races, but his turf form, has been all right. He did not run well in the UN last time. I get it. He broke his maiden first time out on dirt at Saratoga. He was entered main track only that day, and he got it done. He was an interesting sort of Breeders' Cup juvenile horse for about 5 seconds after he finished third in the Breeders' Futurity. And after that, his dirt form just didn't work out. I mean, I guess it wasn't terrible, Dan. I just wonder what we're going to get here as they switch back in this spot. I'm not sure if this is desperation because his recent turf races have not been good, or if they really think he's going to be a dirt horse going forward.
You're to blame. The number 2 has run some back races that easily would make him a strong contender in this field. He just hasn't won in over a year, and I'm beginning to wonder if we've seen the best from You're to blame. He just hasn't run that fast figure this year. He's only raced 3 times, and 2 of them came on a wet track, but You're to blame to me might be a horse that's just a bit past his peak.
Yeah, I could kind of go either way on him, Dan. I don't disagree that his recent form just has not been up to par, and that worries me about him. I get the excuses that could be made for him, but I do sort of wonder if he's maybe lost a step or two. Clearly, he has the back class to be very, very tough in this race.
Expert, the number 3, won 4 in a row last year when trained by Chris Engelhardt and Linda Rice, then ran a bang-up second to Preservationist, who really was turning into one of the better older horses in the country at that point. He then just missed a lot of time, unfortunately. He came back in an impossible spot off the layoff against Mr. Freeze in the Gulfstream Mile, and I thought he ran okay in the flat-out, stretching all the way out last time out against Moretti. Maybe he's found a home at this distance. He's by Point Given, who wanted to run all day long. I think this horse is a sleeper.
I think he's a sleeper as well. And I agree with everything that you said about him leading up, so I'm not going to add to it. I just thought his flat out was a pretty strong performance considering everything that was working against him at that point.
Sometimes you just have to wash your hands of a horse, and I'm doing that right now with the 4 Rocketry, which means he probably goes right back into the winner's circle, but I've chased him time and time again, and I kind of feel the same way about him that I do about You're to blame. This was a horse that was very, very good at one time going a distance of ground, certainly has races good enough to win this. I just haven't seen it, though, in his last few, and Moretti had his number in the flat out. I know he was trying to come from off of it on a wet track, but I didn't love the way he finished up that race.
I didn't either. I mean, he had no chance to win that race considering the way it was run, but I'm with you. I didn't, love the way he finished. Listen, he was off a long layoff there. Maybe he needed the race, especially when you add the sloppy track in. But it just sort of felt like it was one excuse after another for this horse last year. The first 2 dirt starts for this horse at the end of 2018 were excellent, but it just feels like it was nothing but excuses last year. Like you, I'm a little bit tired of this horse.
American Tattoo is the number 5. And American Tattoo, third in the Grade 2 marathon at Santa Anita last year. He can obviously run at this distance. Now, his win since then was when he was able to control the pace in the 8 Challenge Jerkins and off the turf race. The McKnight was a disaster. Throw It Out was on the turf, and he's just not a 9 furlong graded stakes horse. He was actually up close to a very fast pace in the Howell's Hope. It's going to be a lot different situation here. He's probably going to be controlling a moderate pace, and I guess if they leave him alone, he could make them pay.
I think it's possible. I'll be honest. Then I spent a lot of time trying to make this horse in this race because I'm a little bit of a fan of his. He is one of those horses who, if he does get to the front, he's very tough to pass and stretch. He really fights. I don't know if he's good enough. I don't know if he really wants to go this far, but I think there are some things to like about American Tattoo.
As we talked about in the Open, Moretti is simply the horse to beat because he's likely to sit right off of American Tattoo, and he just has the class, perhaps, and the distance staying ability to be a major factor in this race. I mean, I'm not sure what to make of the blinkers off. I'm not going to put too much stock into it or pay too much attention to it, but we always thought from the beginning of Moretti's career, all he wanted was more and more distance, and ever since he's gotten it, he's turned the corner.
Yeah, it has. It just feels like it just took him time and then obviously a little more distance, and things are starting to come together for him. I'm a little bit torn, Dan, between, just saying the Suburban was too tough and he couldn't win it, and saying, you know what, he has to sort of back up that Flat Out now. He's got to prove that wasn't a little bit of a fluke because it's clearly the best race he's ever run when he just got loose on a sloppy track. I don't know. I'm afraid of him in here. I do think he is the horse to beat, but I did go in a different direction for my top pick.
Highland Sky, the number 7, is entered on turf on Saturday. If he scratches and runs here, maybe we'll see a repeat of last year's John's Call Stakes. That race, though, was off the turf. Watch what he did going a mile and a quarter that day. He just won this race like he'd been waiting for dirt his whole career. He was facing a bunch of turf horses and a bunch of horses that were probably past their peak, but this looked like the Highland Sky from when he was a 3-year-old on turf. Maybe it was the wet track. If he runs here again, he classes up. Probably turf is his better surface, but it's not like he's been tearing up the turf so much that maybe dirt will wake him up.
Yeah, I actually feel like he's more interested in this race than he is in the Saturday race on the grass. I can't say that I love him, but I think there are some things to, make you take a second and third look at this horse in this spot if this is where he runs.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Birdstone Stakes, the feature race at Saratoga on Sunday. I like Expert in here. You like him as well. I think the price is going to be okay. I don't think he's the kind of horse that's going to be outrun early. I think he's going to try to follow Moretti. And once Moretti makes his move, we'll see if Expert can stay with him.
Yeah, we will. I agree with everything you said about him earlier. I mean, I just feel like he was the sort of right horse to give another chance to in this race. I'm not way against Moretti in this race. I think he's going to run well, but I wanted to take a shot with Expert.
3624 for Mike, 3467 for me. It's the Birdstone Stakes at 1.75 miles. Your feature race at the Spa on Sunday. Best of luck.